So, just out of curiosity, how many of you play D&D? And I'd like to ask you, how many of those D&D campaigns started in a tavern? Most of them, right? So I'd like you to imagine a game from the perspective of your campaign's innkeeper, and on that note, I'd like to introduce you to Tavern Master. Tavern Master is the solo dev creation from Untitled Studio, a management simulator for all your adventuring, boozy needs. Starting basic with beer and water, then working your way up to a kitchen and overnight lodgings, Tavern Master is far more complex than it first appears. With traditional management mechanics, you're put in charge of a small tavern with 3 walls. The simple tutorial walks you through building, item placement, and staff hiring. The UI is incredibly minimal, leaving lots of screen space to observe your patrons drinking their fill at any tables you've placed. Tables must be well lit with candles and lanterns, and each table can only have a certain number of seats. One thing I really appreciate in this game is the highlighted area where you can place a bench or chair, with real-time feedback to show that the table has its seating, which just saves a lot of time. As your tavern grows, so does your patronage. Planned events, adventures, and research come into play once you've got the basics under your belt. To gain access to better research, you need certain types of patrons. To get those patrons, you need to host certain events. To host those events, you need certain ingredients, and to get those ingredients, you need a table of adventurers. Tavern Master has this really satisfying, logical crafting chain, but another thing it does really well is passive progression. While you're planning events and sending out adventurers, your kitchen meals are leveling up, as are all of your staff. With individual perks and stats, your staff begin at base level and slowly work their way up every day they work. As they get more experience, they serve drinks faster, they carry more, the waitresses receive more tips. Definitely keep an eye on their happiness levels though, and apply pay rises liberally. As you progress through the research tree, your tavern begins to grow upwards. Unlocking new floors with extra kitchens and staff puts your management skill to the limit as you now fight to assign your staff to the busiest areas. Alongside an additional kitchen, you can also construct rooms to rent. Much like a D&D tavern, weary adventurers can hire a room to rest and recuperate for the night. As are your kitchen meals, the rooms are ranked in quality by decorations, items, and how much cash you're willing to spend at fantastic furniture to deck out a suite. It comes down to you to decide how much floor space is worth giving up for someone to stay overnight. Could you have made more coinage from having tables laden with ale crammed onto that spot? I'm about to break the mold of these reviews, are you ready? The audio could be better. Man, okay, that killed me a little to say, but I stand by it. The soundtrack is great, loops well and gets stuck in your head, an excellent indicator of good game music. But we're missing there's a word for it. If you know it, comment it. I like learning new words. Let's just call it the ka-chang for now. If we wheel our brain boxes back to the 31st of March 1999, we were blessed with one of my all-time favorite games, Roller Coaster Tycoon. One of the things that stuck out to me as a fledgling 7-year-old gamer was the sound of cash registers as people either entered the park or got on roller coasters. It was incredibly satisfying having your signature coaster take on a fresh batch of park goers and hearing that cash just flood on in. That's the element currently missing from Tavern Master. We don't get that satisfying ka-chang as money hits the till, as lodgers check in, as meals are delivered. In fact, there's almost no in-house ambience to sell the fact that you're running a bustling tavern. Even when you bring in a band of bards, their music is not added to the throng of voices and footsteps and mugs hitting tables. I think this ambience, this ka-chang, could really elevate this game. But overall, you know I'm a sucker for a solo dev project. The passion and the ideal behind the conception of a project like this is something we're seeing more and more of in the games industry, and I'm totally here for it. With the rise of independent creators, we're getting more of that originally intended vision in its raw form without the fingerprints of producers. Tavern Master is a solid, well-rounded game that I have watched go through stages of independent development. From the prologue to the early key that I was given to the final game that was released, this game has changed and evolved and constantly taken steps in the right direction. With a development map recently released, it's clear to see the dev isn't quite done with this title yet, and I'm excited to see what comes to the bar next.